morning, class.
Good morning.
Thank you for the chance to be given to us. So we are from group 7 and we want to explain about the teaching English through story. So the first slide I want to explain about the introduction. Okay, on the introduction, we explain this chapter highlights the importance of storytelling as an effective method for teaching English to young learners. It explains that stories are not only entertaining but also serve as powerful tools to support language acquisition, helping children develop vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and communicative competence in a natural and meaningful context. Through story, children are exposed to authentic language while also improving their listening skills, imagination, and critical thinking as they follow plots and relate to characters. The chapters also discuss various types of stories suitable for the young learners, such as folk tales, fables, picture books, and digital narrative, along with their key characteristics like simple plots, repetition, and engaging visual. In addition, it emphasizes the importance of follow-up activities such as role-playing, creative text, and interactive exercise to reinforce learning. Overall, the chapter aims to equip teachers with the knowledge and skills to transfer storytelling into dynamic and effective English lessons. In the second slide, I want to explain the role of the stories in English learning. So, for the first point, it is to explain the vocabulary development and grammatical. In the point A, provide natural exposure to new words and sentence structure. Stories introduce vocabulary and grammar in meaningful in real context, not as isolated items. This helps students understand how words and sentences are used in daily communication. As a result, learning becomes more natural and easier to remember. For example, sentence, the boy is running to the park. Students get a new vocabulary like running and boy, and they also learn about the sentence structure like the subject, predicate, and object. And the point B in this first point is repetition helps memory and understanding. Stories often repeat important words and phrases. This helps students remember them better. Repetition also allows students to understand the meaning more deeply through different situations. This makes vocabulary learning more effective. For example, the cat is sleeping, the cat is eating. Through the repetitions, students can remember the vocabulary cat. And the point C, context helps learners understand meaning without translation. Stories provide context through pictures, actions, and situations, so students can guess the meaning of words. This reduces the need for translation into the first language. It also supports more natural language learning. For example, teacher shows a Korean scientist says, "She's a sand." And through it, students can understand the context of the story without translation. So the second point is the listening and comprehension skill. The point A in this point is it will focus on understanding of plots and details. Stories train students to listen carefully and follow the storyline step by step. They learn to understand what the main idea and specific details. This improves their overall listening comprehension. For example, students ask to the teacher, who is the main character in the story? And the point B is use gestures, tone, and expression support comprehensions. Teachers can use body language, facial expression, and voice to make meaning clear. This helps students understand even if they do not know all the vocabulary. It makes the story easier to follow. For example, the teacher acts the gesture like angry, so the students can understand the meaning without the word. Just look the distance. And the point C is encourage prediction and critical thinking. Stories encourage students to think about what might happen next. This helps them develop prediction skills and basic critical thinking. It also makes them more active in learning. For example, after the teacher finished this story, teacher asks two students, what's happened with this character? And students give their idea and answer. And the point third is imagination and creativity. And the point eight explains the stimulate visualization of character and events. Stories help students imagine characters, places, and events in their minds. This develops their imagination and adjustment. With lessons, it also makes learning more interesting. For example, students imagine the big green dragon, while the while then listen the story from the teacher. The point is the super creative activities like drawing, role-playing, and storytelling. Stories can be followed by creative texts that make learning more interactive. Activities like drawing and role-play help students expand their understanding. This also keeps students active and motivated. For example, students can draw their favorite character on the story. And point C is enhanced expressive language skill. Stories give students opportunities to express ideas, feelings, and events in English. They practice speaking through retelling or discussing the story. This improves their confidence and fluency. For example, students say, the dog is happy when retelling the story. In the point 4 is a relationship driven with generation. The point 9 explains the teach empathy, values, friendship, and responsibility. Stories present situations that teach important life values. Students learn about kindness, helping others, and responsibility. These lessons are meaningful and easy to understand through stories. For example, I take example story from the Lion and the Mouse. The story tells the students about helping others. Like that, yeah. And the point is help children understand emotion and perspective. Stories show the different feelings and viewpoints through characters. Students can learn to understand why characters feel happy, sad, or angry. This builds emotional awareness. For example, students and teacher give the question and student answer. He is sad because he loves his toy. And the point C is enhanced expressive language skills. Stories help students express emotion and opinions using simple English. They learn both to describe feelings and reaction. This improves their communication skill. For example, students say, I feel happy, or she's angry. And the point 5 is talk about the motivation and adjustment. And the point 8 is make learning fun and stressful. Stories create an enjoyable and relaxed learning atmosphere. Students feel less pressure and are not afraid of making mistakes. This helps them learn English more comfortable. For example, students love and enjoy this story. And the point is increase interest and participation in learning English. Stories attract students' attention and make them curious about the lesson. They become more active and answer questions and join in activities. This increases their participation. For example, if the teacher gives the question about the story, the students raise their hand to answer it. And the point C is create a positive and enjoyable classroom environment. Stories help with a friendly and supportive classroom environment. Students feel comfortable to interact and share ideas. This makes learning more effective and enjoyable. For example, students can enjoy the role-play activities and work together happily. So we move to the slide types of story for the young learners. So the first one is the picture books. The point A explains the use colorful illustration to support understanding. Picture books use bright and attractive images to help students understand the story more easily. Young learners depend on visual support because they learn better through concrete objects and pictures. This makes it easier for them to connect words with meaning. For example, students see a picture, a dog, and understand the word of dog without translation. The point B is simple and repetitive text, help vocabulary and sentence learning. The language in the books is usually simple and repeated many times. This repetition helps students remember new words and understand basic sentence patterns. It also boosts their confidence in using English. For example, the bird is flying, the bird is small. Repetition helps students to understand the word and remember the vocabulary word. And the point C is very suitable for young beginners. Picture books are very appropriate for beginners because they combine simple language with some visual support. Students can follow the story even if they do not understand every word. This makes learning less difficult and more enjoyable. For example, beginner students understand the story by looking at pictures while listening the simple sentences of the story. And the second point is the traditional tales and folk tales. The point A explains the simple words, clear characters, and moral values. Traditional tales usually have easy storylines with clear characters such as good and bad figures. This helps students understand the story without confusion. They also teach important moral lessons. For example, stories like the Cinderella show the kindness and good behavior. Point B is it explains the repetition and comparison of tradition. This story often includes repeat action and phrases. This repetition helps students understand the story better and predict what will happen next. It also improves their listening and thinking skill. For example, students hear the repeat action and guess the next event in the story. Point C is often familiar, making learning easier. Many traditional stories are already known by students in the first language. This familiarity helps them focus on more on learning English instead of understanding the story. It makes learning faster and easier. For example, students already know the story Snow White, so they focus on the English vocabulary. And the third point is the fables. The point A explains the short story with animals and moral values. Fables are usually short and use animals as a character, which make them interesting for children. This simple storyline is easy to follow and understand. This story also includes clear moral lessons. For example, the lion and the mouse teaches that smart action can help others. The point B is that these values and encourage discussions. Fables teach important life values such as kindness, honesty, and helping others. Teachers can use this story to start discussion and encourage students to share their opinions. This also helps students practice speaking. For example, after the story, the teacher asks why we should help others. And the point C is use simple and clear language. The language in fables is usually short, simple, easy to understand. This makes it suitable for the young learners who are still learning basic English. Students can quickly understand and remember the sentences. For example, the fox is clever. Simple sentences that easy to understand. Okay, we move to the
And the fourth types of stories is rhyming stories and tales. These are the stories that use rhyme and rhythm, and children usually enjoy them because the sound is fun and interesting. Rhyme and rhythm help children remember new words and phrases more easily. For example, I think it's example from songs Twinkle Twinkle Little Star are easier for children to remember because of repetition and rhythm. And the fifth type is cumulative stories. In this type of story, each new part is added in the previous one and the sequence is repeated again and again. This repetition helps children understand the story more easily because they can predict what will happen next. For example, is the little old lady who swallowed the fly. And the last type is personal stories. Teachers can tell story from their own experience, and students can share story about their experience too. Personal stories are meaningful because they are related to real life and create a closer connection between teacher and student. They also give student a natural example of how English is used in daily life and encourage them to express themselves. For example, a teacher can say simple story like, "Last weekend I visited my grandmother and spent time with my family." Students can also share their own experience. And the next is follow-up activities using story. The first one is vocabulary reinforcement activities. The first activities is, after listening to the story, children need more practice to remember new words. Teacher can use activities that help children review vocabulary in a fun and simple way. For example, teacher can use flashcard and matching games, where children make picture with from the story. Another activity is what's missing, where the teacher shows several flashcards, removes one, and students guess the missing word. Teacher can also use sentence communication, where students fill in missing words in sentence from the story. These activities help children remember vocabulary more easily because they learn through repetition and interaction. And the next is speaking and oral correction. The purpose of these activities is to encourage children to speak and use English actively. Students can retell the story using own words individually or in groups. They can also do real role play and dramatization by acting as character from the story. To make it more interesting, teacher can use simple customers or props. Another activity is puppet shows, where the students use hand puppets or finger puppets to tell the story. This activity is especially helpful for shy students because they often feel more confident speaking through puppets. Teacher can also ask what happened next, activities where students predict or create different ending to the story. And the third is reading and writing activity. In this type, especially for more advanced learners or students who already have basic literacy skills. In story sequencing, students arrange pictures or events from the story in correct order. Students can also create a map by identifying character, setting, problem, and solution in the story. Another activity is writing a different ending or adding a new character. Students can also draw their favorite scene and label objects or character in English. This activity helps students understand the story more deeply. And the fourth is creative arts-based activities. In this type, the activities combine storytelling with art and creativity. Students can draw and color story characters or scenes to help them remember the details. They can also create craft related to the story, such as making character masks or making house model from the three little pigs. Teacher can also turn parts of the story into songs or chants. This activity makes learning more enjoyable and give children opportunities to express themselves creatively. And the last is critical and discussion activities. These activities encourage children to think more deeply about the story, not only remember it. Teacher can ask open-ended questions such as why did the teacher do that, or what would you do if you were the teacher. Students can also discuss moral lesson of the story or compare different versions of the same story. These activities help children improve their understanding and develop critical thinking skills. And the last is key principle. In this type, activities should match students' age level and interest. And the second, teacher creativity is essential for effective learning.
Okay, thank you. These are all the dishes. So I will give chance for you to give the questions.
Okay, I have one question for your group. The question is, why are story important in Teyl? Why are stories important in teaching English for everyone?
Why is the story is important to learners? Can you mention?
I will answer your question. Why stories are important to teaching English to young learners? Because in this type, stories are important because they can help children learn English in a natural and meaningful way. Through stories, children can improve vocab, grammar, pronunciation, and listening skills. Next question.
Next question.
Based on your experience before, you say rhythm, rhyme, and rhythm helps children remember words. So, how can that happen?
Okay, let me discuss how you answer the question. Can I remember you can? Okay, we have the answer of your question. So, because children enjoy repetition in sound patterns, repeat sounds and rhyme make words easier to understand. Satisfy our answer?
Can you repeat?
Okay. Because children enjoy the repetition and rhyme. And rhyme. Repeat sounds and rhyme make words easier to remember. Okay. So, thank you. We close the